The night on Kareth 9 station was quiet, too quiet even for a human janitor like Evan Cole. He pushed his old cleaning cart down the long silver corridors, his boots echoing against the cold metal floor. The lights above flickered softly, giving the place an empty feeling. He was used to it: silence, loneliness, and the endless sound of his mop. Evan was a single father once, long ago on Earth. But after the accident that took his wife and child, he left his world behind and took the first off-world job he could find. Working as a janitor among aliens didn't bother him. He just needed peace, or something close to it. But that night, peace didn't stay for long. As he turned into the lower maintenance bay, he heard something, faint, broken, and strange. A sound that didn't belong in the emptiness. It wasn't the hum of machines or the hiss of pipes. It was softer, trembling. Like crying, Evan froze. His heart beat faster. He followed the sound down a narrow hallway filled with shadows and crates. The cries grew louder. He pushed aside a pile of metal scraps and saw something that made him drop his flashlight. Two small shapes, curled up together under a dirty thermal sheet. Their skin was pale blue, covered in dust and bruises. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. They weren't human. Hey there, Evan whispered carefully, kneeling down. It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. The two little ones stared at him with fear. They were shaking. One of them tried to speak, but only a silent movement came from her mouth. No sound. The other reached for her sister's hand and made strange signs in the air. Evan blinked. You can't hear me, can you? He looked around. No one else, no guards, no parents. Just two alien girls, maybe 6 or 7 years old, terrified and alone. Someone had left them here to die. Anger rose inside him. Not tonight, he said quietly. He took off his jacket and wrapped them both inside. They flinched at first, but when they felt the warmth, they stopped resisting. One of them touched his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart. She looked up with wide eyes, confused but curious. Evan smiled gently. Yeah, that's a heartbeat. You're safe, okay? You're safe now. He carried them to his small quarters hidden behind the waste storage sector. It wasn't much, just a bed, an old heater, and some pictures from Earth. He laid them down and gave them his blanket. When he tried to feed them a bit of protein bread, they looked at it carefully, sniffed it, then smiled shyly before eating. That smile hit him hard. It was the first time he'd seen one in years. Later that night, as he watched them sleep, his mind raced. What kind of world leaves children like this? Were they refugees? Experiments? Or worse, royal runaways? He didn't know. All he knew was that they had no one. He touched the small glowing tag on their wrists. The writing was in alien script, but he could make out a word repeated on both. Lyrians, he whispered to himself. Lyrian twins. Huh, guess I'm a babysitter now. The smaller one stirred and opened her eyes again. She stared at him, then made a slow hand motion, tapping her chest twice and pointing to him. Evan didn't understand, but he mimicked it. She smiled and nodded. He realized she was teaching him her sign, maybe her name. He repeated it softly. Lyra? She nodded again. The other one woke up and made her own sign. He tried to copy it too. Know me? Both smiled together, and in that small dark room, something changed. Evan didn't know it yet, but that moment would echo through galaxies. Outside the space station, a golden cruiser drifted silently through the black sky. Inside it, a tall alien woman with silver eyes stared at a hologram of 2 missing children. Her voice was sharp, filled with pain. Find them. Search every outpost, every colony. I will not rest until my daughters are home. Her guards bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Back in the janitor's quarters, Evan gently pulled the blanket over the twins and sighed. He didn't know the storm that was coming. All he knew was that for the first time in years he didn't feel alone. He whispered, "Sleep well, girls. I've got you." The hum of the engines outside mixed with their soft breathing. The cries that had once echoed in the dark were gone, replaced by something rare in that cold galaxy, the beginning of a family. The next morning on Kareth 9 station, light from the twin suns filtered through the narrow window of Evan's small room. The faint hum of machines filled the air as he woke to the quiet sound of movement, tiny hands touching the walls, exploring. The 2 alien twins, Lyra and Nomi, were awake. They were watching him with those glowing silver blue eyes, cautious but curious. Their small bodies were wrapped in his old blanket, their heads tilting as if studying every motion he made. Evan smiled. "Morning, girls," he said softly, forgetting they couldn't hear him. He lifted his hands and waved, then tapped his chest and pointed to himself. "Evan." Both of them looked at each other, then copied his motion. It made him chuckle quietly. Smart kids. He made breakfast from what little he had, nutrient paste and reheated bread. They sniffed the food like scared animals, unsure at first, but when he sat beside them and took a bite, they slowly followed. Their faces softened as they tasted real food for the first time in who knows how long. After they ate, Evan took a deep breath and sat in front of them. "Okay," he whispered. "If you're staying with me, we need to talk somehow." He started drawing simple shapes on an old metal panel, a circle, a star, a stick figure. He pointed at himself again. "Evan." Then he pointed at them, waiting. Lyra tapped her chest, then made a small swirl motion with her hand. Nomi did the same, but with 2 fingers. He repeated them carefully. "Lyra, Nomi." They smiled, bright and pure. That smile was enough to warm his tired heart. Days turned into weeks. Evan taught them to recognize objects with gestures. He would hold a cup, tap it, and point. Soon they learned to do the same. They began to laugh, silent but full of life, their shoulders shaking, their eyes glowing with joy. In return, they taught him more signs, showing him how they spoke without sound. At first he was slow and clumsy, but the girls were patient. They would giggle when he got it wrong and clap when he got it right. It became their secret language. But not everyone on Kareth 9 was kind. During his night shifts, other alien workers often stared at him with disgust. "A human raising aliens?" they whispered. "They're not his kind. He's lost his mind," Evan ignored them. He'd seen enough cruelty in his life to know words didn't matter. What mattered were the 2 little souls waiting for him each night. One evening, after finishing his shift, he returned to find Lyra and Nomi sitting on the floor surrounded by scrap parts. They were building something. Small metal pieces, old wires, and a broken speaker. Things he had thrown away. He knelt beside them. "What's this?" Lyra tapped the speaker, then her chest, then the floor. Vibration. Evan realized what they were trying to do. They wanted to feel sound. His heart ached with pride. Together, they spent the night building a small vibration device, a simple box that translated sound into gentle pulses. When he turned it on, the twins gasped. They touched it, their eyes widening as they felt the rhythm of his humming. They couldn't hear his voice, but they could feel it. Evan laughed, tears in his eyes. "You 2 are geniuses." From that night, their tiny home was filled with new energy. They would sit by his side as he worked, playing quietly, building small toys and leaving colorful handprints on his walls. They made the dark metallic room feel like a home. Yet somewhere deep in Evan's heart, a shadow of fear grew. He didn't know where these children came from, or who might be looking for them. He had seen the strange tattoo-like marks near their wrists, the royal-looking symbol that shimmered under light. He had tried searching the station's database, but access was restricted. Still, he couldn't send them away, not after seeing the way they looked at him. He remembered one night when he woke to find Nomi asleep on his arm, her small fingers gripping his sleeve tightly, as if afraid he'd disappear. He stayed awake the whole night watching her sleep peacefully, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. One morning, as he cleaned the academy hall, he noticed something strange. New guards stationed near the command wing. They wore royal insignias, the kind only high-born aliens used. One of them mentioned a search order. Evan's heart sank. He pretended to mop the floor, but his hands trembled. Later, when he returned home, he saw the twins waiting at the door, smiling as always. He knelt down, hugged them tight, and whispered, "No matter what happens, I've got you both." They didn't hear him, but they felt the warmth in his embrace. Above the station, in a distant royal ship, the alien queen stood before her advisors. "They were last seen near this sector," she said coldly. "If anyone hides them, they will answer to me." Back in his small quarters, Evan tucked the girls into bed. He stared at the stars outside the small window and muttered, "I'll keep you safe no matter who's looking." He didn't know it yet, but the search had already begun, and soon, the queen herself would arrive, and when she did, the galaxy would remember the name of a human janitor who dared to love beyond the stars. The nights on Kareth 9 station had begun to feel normal again for Evan and his 2 alien daughters, Lyra and Nomi. The hum of the air vents, the soft vibration of the gravity stabilizers, all of it became part of their quiet life together. But lately, Evan had begun to notice something different. The silence around the maintenance sector was changing. Too many guards, too many eyes, too many questions being asked about things that didn't concern janitors. It started when he saw a tall, cloaked alien standing at the far end of the corridor while he was cleaning. The stranger didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. When Evan turned to look again, the figure was gone. That night, as he walked home through the dimly lit tunnel, a chill crawled down his spine. He felt it. Someone was following him. He stopped and turned around. No one. Only the echo of his own boots. Still, something in his gut told him it wasn't imagination. When he reached his room, the twins ran to greet him. They threw their small arms around him, their glowing eyes full of joy. For a moment, all his worries faded. He laughed quietly and lifted them into his arms. But as he locked the door, he couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone anymore. The next day, during his cleaning rounds at the academy, Evan overheard 2 alien officers whispering near the docking bay. Her Majesty sent scouts to every colony. They say she lost her royal heirs, twin daughters, gone without a trace, and she's furious, promised a reward for anyone who finds them. Evan froze in place, pretending to clean. His heart started pounding so loud it felt like the whole corridor could hear it. Twin daughters? His eyes widened. It can't be. He hurried back to his small quarters as fast as he could. When he entered, he found the twins sitting on the floor, making drawings with old markers he'd found. They were sketching stars, hearts, and something that looked like a crown. He knelt beside them, pretending to smile, but deep inside he was terrified. If they truly were the missing royal twins, then he wasn't just caring for orphans, he was hiding royal blood. That night, after the girls fell asleep, Evan sat near the window, staring at the endless stars outside. "What have I done?" he whispered. "If the Queen finds out, I'm finished." But then he looked at them, their peaceful faces, the small hands still holding each other even in sleep. He sighed. "Doesn't matter. I'll protect them. I promised." He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, while he was working near the cargo docks, he saw the stranger again. The same cloaked figure standing in the shadows watching him. This time, Evan decided to face it. He took a deep breath, left his cleaning cart, and walked slowly toward the stranger. "Can I help you?" he asked firmly. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it turned slightly, revealing glowing eyes beneath the hood. Eyes that looked almost like Lyra's and Nomi's. Evan froze. "Who are you?" Before he could step closer, the stranger pressed a small device on their wrist. A faint beam of blue light scanned him, quick and silent. Then without a word, the figure turned and disappeared into a restricted tunnel. Evan stood there, heart racing. Something inside told him that this wasn't random. Whoever that was, they knew. When he got back home that evening, the twins ran to him with excitement. They had something to show him, a small crystal pendant they found near the door. He picked it up and studied it. It wasn't just a pendant. It was a royal emblem, engraved with the same crest he'd seen on the guard's armor. He felt his blood run cold. Someone had been here. He knelt in front of the twins and smiled, hiding his fear. "It's pretty, huh?" he signed, using the gestures they taught him. They nodded happily, unaware of the danger outside. That night he packed a small bag, food, batteries, and the vibration toy he'd built for them. He planned to leave the station the next day, somewhere far away, where no one would find them. But fate didn't give him that chance. As he tucked the twins into bed, a distant alarm echoed through the station, soft but steady, like a heartbeat of doom. A voice came over the loudspeaker. "Attention all personnel. A royal envoy from the Lyrian Empire has docked. All sectors must prepare for inspection." Evan's stomach twisted. The Queen's ship had arrived. He looked at the twins, innocent, smiling, unaware that their mother was only corridors away. He whispered, "Don't worry, girls. Whatever happens, I'm right here." But outside, as the Queen stepped from her ship surrounded by golden guards, her eyes burned with determination. "The ones who hide my daughters," she said coldly, "will not see another dawn." And somewhere in the shadows of the corridor, the stranger watched Evan's small room. and whispered into a comm link. "I've found them. The day the royal ship landed on Kareth 9 station, everything changed. The ground trembled. The air shimmered with energy. The usual hum of engines was drowned by the deep thunder of a Lyrian warcruiser, a ship so large it blotted out the sun. Every alien worker stopped what they were doing. Even the station commander bowed his head in fear. The queen of the Lyrian Empire had arrived. From the upper dock, Evan watched as the royal ship unfolded like a metallic flower. Gold armor gleamed under the bright light. Banners bearing the royal insignia hung from the ramp, and at the center of it all, she appeared, tall, elegant, and terrifyingly calm. The alien queen stepped down the ramp. Her silver eyes were cold, her gown flowing like liquid starlight. Soldiers surrounded her in perfect formation. She didn't need to raise her voice to command respect. Her presence alone froze the air. Evan gripped the railing tight. His stomach turned cold. He recognized her eyes instantly, the same glowing silver that Lyra and Nomi had. He whispered to himself, "It's her, their mother." That night, the Queen addressed the station through a holographic broadcast. Her voice echoed across every corridor. "My daughters were stolen from me 6 years ago," she said, her tone cutting like a blade. "I have searched every planet, every colony. Anyone found hiding them will be punished without mercy." Evan stood frozen in his small room, watching the hologram flicker on his wall. The twins sat beside him, unaware of the meaning of her words. They just watched the glowing figure in fascination, thinking it was another of his stories. He turned the hologram off quickly and forced a smile. "It's nothing," he signed to them. "Just a news broadcast," but deep inside his heart raced. The Queen was here. She was searching, and she was close. The next few days were a nightmare. Royal patrols roamed the station, scanning every sector. Drones hovered through hallways, searching for biological signatures that matched the royal DNA. Soldiers questioned civilians, tearing apart rooms, demanding answers. Evan knew it was only a matter of time. He hid the twins in a small compartment behind the wall, a space he'd built long ago to store cleaning supplies. It was barely big enough for them, but it kept them out of sight. "Stay here," he whispered, crouching in front of them. He used hand signs to make sure they understood. "Quiet, no light. No sound." Lyra grabbed his sleeve, eyes trembling. She didn't want him to go. He smiled softly and touched her cheek. "I'll be back. I promise." He closed the panel and walked out just as heavy boots echoed down the hallway. A team of Lyrian soldiers entered his room. Their leader, a tall alien with violet skin and sharp armor, looked around coldly. "Human," the guard barked. "You work maintenance here?" "Yes, sir," Evan replied, keeping his voice calm. "I just clean the halls." The guard's scanner beeped faintly. "You live alone?" Evan nodded. "No one else. Just me." The soldier's eyes narrowed. He looked around, the bed neatly made, the tools lined up, the faint smell of oil and soap. Everything looked normal, but then his gaze fell on the small vibration toy sitting on the table, the one Evan and the twins built. The guard picked it up. "What's this?" Evan's heart nearly stopped. "Just a cleaning sensor," he lied quickly. "It helps me detect pressure leaks." The guard turned it over in his hand. The device hummed faintly, pulsing with soft light. Then he saw something, a symbol etched at the bottom. "The Lyrian crest, where did you get this?" the guard demanded. Evan forced a laugh. "Scrapyard. Found it while cleaning Sector 9. The guard studied him for a long moment, then finally dropped the device and turned toward the door. "If we find you lying, human, you'll wish you hadn't been born." Evan didn't move until the sound of boots faded. Then he exhaled slowly, shaking. He quickly opened the wall panel. Lyra and Nomi were still there, clutching each other. He smiled weakly. "It's okay. They're gone." But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. That night, while the station slept, Evan went to the lower maintenance bay. He planned to steal a shuttle and escape. But as he reached the docking door, a shadow blocked his path. The stranger in the cloak stood there again. This time the hood was down. Evan froze. The stranger's face was soft, almost glowing. A royal attendant, maybe even one of the Queen's personal guards. "You shouldn't have hidden them," the figure said quietly. "They are not yours." Evan clenched his fists. No one else cared. They were starving, scared, and abandoned. "I did what anyone human would do," The stranger stared at him for a long moment, then spoke softly, almost sadly. "The Queen is not as cruel as you think, but she is desperate." Before Evan could reply, the stranger placed a small communicator on the ground and disappeared into the dark. Evan picked it up, confused, until it lit up and projected a single message. "She is coming. Hide them. Now." Back in her royal chamber aboard the cruiser, the alien queen gazed at a glowing map. Her eyes narrowed as the scanner pulsed. "Sector 9, she whispered. "They're here." And on the other side of the metal wall, Evan held both twins in his arms, listening to the faint sound of engines above. He looked at them and whispered, "We're running out of time." Girls, but Lyra only smiled and signed something simple, home, and that word broke him, because to them he already was. The next morning, Kareth 9 station no longer felt like home. The hum of engines was replaced by the steady march of royal boots. Patrols filled every hallway, scanners flashed against every wall, and the metallic voice of the Lyrian command echoed across the intercom. "Search Protocol 7. No one leaves until the heirs are found." Inside a small storage room in the maintenance sector, Evan sat beside Lyra and Nomi. The twins stayed close, their eyes wide and confused. They couldn't hear the alarms, but they could feel the vibration in the floor. Every step, every shout, every bang against the walls. He tried to smile, but his hands shook. He signed to them slowly, "Stay quiet. Stay hidden." Lyra nodded, clutching his sleeve. Nomi pressed her small hand to his chest, feeling his heartbeat. Evan whispered softly, "We'll be okay." But even he didn't believe it. Through a small crack in the metal door, he could see flashes of armor. The Queen's soldiers were moving closer, scanning every room with shimmering beams. One wrong signal, and they'd be discovered. He reached for the communicator the stranger had left. It flickered to life, showing a message in alien script. He used his translator to decode it. "They're tracking the royal mark on the twins' wrists. Remove it or you'll be found." Evan cursed under his breath. The glowing insignias and the Lyrian marks he had noticed weeks ago. He quickly grabbed a small toolkit, cut open an old signal dampener, and used its magnetic pulse generator to mask the energy coming from their wrists. The twins flinched when the small spark flashed. "It's okay," he whispered. "It's just a trick to keep us safe." He could only hope it worked, but fate was already on its way. A loud crash echoed from the hallway. The door burst open. A squad of Lyrian soldiers stormed in, weapons raised. "Down!" one of them shouted. Evan instinctively shielded the twins. He raised his hand slowly. "Wait, don't hurt them." The lead soldier scanned the room, and the device in his hand began to beep faster. "We have a match," he barked. Royal DNA confirmed. The twins clung to Evan's arms, terrified but silent. Their small bodies trembled as bright light filled the room. Within seconds, the soldiers surrounded them, then silence fell. The crowd of guards stepped aside, and through the doorway the Queen herself entered. Her presence filled the room like cold fire. The air shimmered around her, her gown glowing faintly with alien energy. Her eyes, silver like her daughter's, landed on Evan first, then on the twins behind him. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Human, step aside." Evan's breath caught in his throat. "They're scared," he said softly. "Please, let me explain." "I said," she repeated, her tone cutting through him like a blade. "Step aside." He didn't move. "No," the soldiers tensed. One raised his weapon, but the Queen lifted her hand, stopping him. Her gaze didn't leave Evan's. "You know who they are?" "I know their children," he said quietly. "I found them half dead in the trash bay. No one else cared. So I did." Her eyes narrowed. "You dare speak as if you understand what you've taken from me?" Evan swallowed hard. "I didn't take them. I saved them." The twins slowly peeked from behind him. Lyra's glowing eyes met her mother's. Something deep stirred within the Queen, a flicker of recognition, a warmth she had buried long ago. She took a slow step forward. "Lyra, Nomi," she whispered, her voice trembling. The twins hesitated. Then Nomi stepped forward, tiny hands shaking. She reached up, touching her chest and signing a single word. "Mother." The Queen gasped. She covered her mouth, tears glimmering in her eyes. For years she had imagined finding her daughters in royal halls, in golden chambers, never here, in the arms of a human janitor. Lyra tugged on Evan's sleeve, signing again and again. Father. The Queen looked up sharply. What did she say? Evan's voice cracked. She called me her dad. The room went silent. Even the guards lowered their weapons, glancing at each other uncertainly. The Queen's eyes softened, full of confusion and emotion she couldn't hide. They love you? Evan nodded, holding his ground. I didn't plan this, but they're my family now. And if you want them back... He paused, his voice trembling. You'll have to understand that. The Queen turned away, her hand trembling. Her advisors whispered, demanding his arrest, calling him a criminal. But she ignored them. She looked back at her daughters, their small hands reaching for her, and then at the human who had given them safety, warmth, and love. You protected them, she said quietly. When I failed to, Evan didn't speak. He just looked at the twins, his daughters, whether the galaxy agreed or not. Finally, the Queen whispered almost to herself, No one else ever dared defy me. She raised her head, her royal mask returning. Take them to the palace, she ordered softly. All three of them. The guards hesitated. Your Majesty? Her voice hardened. You heard me. They stay together. As they were escorted through the shining halls, Evan felt the twins' hands holding his tightly. The fear began to fade from their faces. They didn't know what awaited them, but they knew one thing: they weren't alone anymore. And somewhere in the crowd, the cloaked stranger watched quietly, a small smile hidden under the hood. The Queen had found her daughters. And perhaps she had also found the heart she thought she'd lost. The royal ship soared through the silent void of space, leaving Kareth 9 Station behind. Inside its silver corridors, lights pulsed softly, reflecting the deep blue of Lyrian technology. Yet despite its beauty, the air inside felt heavy, like it carried too many emotions that words couldn't hold. Evan sat quietly on one of the soft crystal benches, the alien twins curled up beside him. Lyra leaned against his arm while Nomi held his hand tight, her small fingers gripping as if afraid he'd vanish. Across from them stood the Queen, tall, graceful, and unreadable. For a long time, no one spoke. The hum of the ship filled the silence between them. Finally, the Queen's voice broke through. You must think me cruel. Evan looked up slowly. I think you're a mother, he said softly. A desperate one. Her silver eyes flickered, not in anger, but something close to guilt. You know nothing of desperation, human. My enemies took them from me. I searched every world, every moon. I tore apart colonies, and yet it was you who found them. Evan sighed. I didn't find them. They found me. The twins looked between them, not understanding the words but feeling the tension. Lyra reached out, touching her mother's hand carefully. The Queen froze at the gesture. The child smiled and began to sign slowly. Her movements were gentle, almost shy. The Queen frowned, confused. What is she doing? Evan leaned forward. She's saying thank you. The Queen blinked. Thank you? He nodded. She doesn't remember much, but she remembers being hungry, cold. She's thanking you for being here now. For the first time, the Queen's stern face softened. Her shoulders lowered and her voice trembled. They were too young. I never heard their voices. I never even... She stopped, unable to finish. Evan looked at her quietly. They can't hear, but they understand more than most adults I've met. They don't need words to feel love. The Queen turned away, staring out the window. Love, she repeated as if it were a foreign word. The royal ship entered orbit above the Lyrian capital, a glowing planet covered in oceans of light. The Queen's palace stood on a floating island surrounded by shimmering towers, a symbol of perfection, order, and power. But for Evan, it felt like a cage. When they arrived, the Queen ordered private quarters for him and the twins. The servants bowed deeply, whispering nervously. To them, the idea of a human janitor living in the royal palace was madness. As he carried the girls through the grand halls, Evan couldn't help but feel out of place. Everything was too clean, too perfect. No warmth, no laughter. That night, after the twins had fallen asleep on soft beds far grander than anything they'd ever known, Evan stepped out to the balcony. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the palace walls. He thought of Earth, of quiet mornings, burnt coffee, and the daughter he once lost. Now he had 2 more souls depending on him, and he didn't know how long the Queen's kindness would last. A voice came from behind him. You look uncomfortable, human. Evan turned. The queen stood there, dressed not in her royal armor but a simple flowing robe. For the first time she looked less like a ruler and more like a mother. He nodded. "I don't belong here." "On the contrary," she said, walking closer. "They won't sleep unless they know you're near. My guards say the girls cried when you left their side." He smiled faintly. "They're brave, but they've been through too much." The queen looked away, ashamed. "I never imagined my daughters would find comfort in someone like you." Evan chuckled softly. "Neither did I. I just did what anyone would do, so what a father would do." Her gaze lingered on him. "And yet your kind is known for war, for greed, for destruction. But you—" She paused. "You gave without asking. You protected without fear," he shrugged. "We're not all the same. Sometimes the best of us come from the simplest places." The queen fell silent. Then slowly she said, "Tomorrow the High Council will demand punishment for you. They will say you stole royal heirs, that you deserve death." Evan met her eyes calmly. "And what do you say?" She looked at him for a long moment. "I say, you are the only father my daughters have ever known." Evan's heart stopped for a second. "Your Majesty," she raised her hand, silencing him. "Do not thank me. It is I who should thank you. You showed me what it means to care beyond blood or power. You reminded me what I had forgotten. The heart of a parent." Her voice grew soft. "The heart of a father." As dawn rose over the Lyrian sky, the queen made her choice. She dismissed her council's demands. The human would not be punished. Instead, she declared a new decree. From this day, the human known as Evan Cole shall be recognized as guardian of the royal heirs. His courage and compassion shall be honored across the empire. The court was silent. No one dared argue. That morning, as the twins ran to Evan's arms, the queen watched quietly. Her eyes glimmered not with pride, but peace, something she hadn't felt in years. And deep within her heart, she whispered, "Perhaps humanity is not so small after all." Morning light spilled through the crystal windows of the Lyrian royal palace, painting the halls in silver and gold. For the first time in years, laughter echoed within its walls, soft, innocent, and pure. It came from Lyra and Nomi. The alien twins were running barefoot across the polished floor, their long hair flowing as they played with tiny orbs of light hovering above them. Watching them from a distance stood Evan, the human janitor who never dreamed he'd end up in a palace. He smiled quietly as they waved at him, using their small hands to sign father. Every time they did it, it hit him deeper than words ever could. But as he looked toward the grand throne room, his smile faded. He knew today was the day of judgment. The queen had summoned her entire High Council, the oldest and most powerful beings in the empire, to decide his fate. And though she had defended him before, Evan knew power always came with pressure. He knelt beside the twins. "No matter what happens," he said softly, signing the words so they could understand. "Remember, I love you both." They nodded, touching his face gently in return. Then a royal guard entered the hall. "The queen requests your presence, human." Evan rose slowly. His heart was calm. Whatever awaited him, he was ready. Inside the throne chamber, hundreds of alien nobles filled the circular hall. The queen sat on her throne, her silver crown reflecting the light of 1,000 suns. Her face was calm, but her eyes betrayed conflict, between her duty as a ruler and her love as a mother. Evan stood before her, surrounded by guards, as the council began their outcry. "He's a thief," one shouted. "He hid royal blood from the crown. He contaminated the heirs with human behavior," another hissed. "This cannot be forgiven." "Humans are unstable," said a third. "Their species destroys what it touches." The noise grew louder, like a storm of arrogance. Evan said nothing. He simply stood still, his hands folded in front of him. The queen's gaze flicked toward him briefly, questioning, perhaps even pleading for him to stay silent. When the voices reached their peak, the queen finally rose. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "Enough!" The entire hall fell silent. She stepped down from her throne and walked slowly toward the center. "You all speak of power, law, and purity," she said coldly. "But you forget what truly sustains a kingdom at mercy." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. She continued, her voice rising. "This human, this janitor you despise, gave my daughters what all my riches could not. He gave them comfort, safety, and love. He raised them when you would have left them for dead. Her words struck like thunder. While I sat upon my throne believing my empire was flawless, this man, a simple human, showed me what true nobility means. She turned to Evan. You are not my servant. Human, you are family. A stunned murmur swept the hall. Family? Someone whispered. The Queen ignored them. From this day forward, she declared, her voice echoing through the marble chamber, Evan Cole of Earth will be recognized as Guardian of the Heirs, a title equal in honor to any royal name. The council erupted in disbelief. You cannot do this. He's an outsider. The Queen's gaze hardened. Then perhaps it is time the Empire learns that compassion knows no species. Her words carried a power no law could challenge. The twin doors opened. Lyra and Nomi entered, their tiny feet padding softly across the shining floor. They looked around in confusion until they saw their mother and Evan. Running forward, they signed joyfully, Mother, Father. The Queen knelt down, tears shining in her eyes. She embraced them both, and for the first time in the history of the Lyrian court, the galaxy's most feared ruler wept in front of her people. Evan stood behind them, quiet, humble, and proud. The Queen looked up at her council, still holding her daughters. These children are Lyrian by birth, she said, but their hearts, their courage, were shaped by a human. Remember that before you judge another species again. No one spoke. No one dared. Later that night, as the twin moons rose over the glowing city, Evan stood on the royal balcony beside the Queen. Below them, the lights of the capital sparkled like stars. The Queen broke the silence first. You've changed me, human. Evan smiled faintly. No, they changed us both. She looked at her daughters sleeping nearby, wrapped in soft silver blankets. The galaxy will talk about this for centuries, she said quietly. A human janitor who made a queen bow to her own heart. Evan chuckled. Sounds like a story, doesn't it? She turned to him, smiling for the first time. No, she said softly. It's history. And so the tale spread across the stars, the story of a human janitor who defied an empire not with weapons, but with kindness. A man who taught a queen that love was the greatest power in the universe. A father whose heart united two worlds. From that day on, whenever someone whispered about humanity, they didn't speak with doubt or fear, they spoke with awe, because one man proved that even among the endless stars, a human's love can change the fate of a galaxy.